Hello. Good morning. Welcome to the Funky Marketing Show. This is the show when we talk with people who are doing things a little bit differently with a bit of funk. And today, have a pleasure to be joined by Michelle J Raymond, and we're going to talk about different stuff, mainly focusing on LinkedIn, both pages, profiles, branding, and those kind of things. Michelle is somebody with a exciting background, more in the sales than in marketing, and we'll get into all of this. Stay with us. Just time for the funky intro first. And we're back. Michelle, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
It is my pleasure to be here. I've been hanging out, waiting to get to talk to you. So this is my opportunity, and we'll just let everybody else listen in, hey?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been going back and forth in the comments and in the DMs for a while now. It took some time to make it happen.
Absolutely. But here we are now, and I am ready to talk all things funky marketing. So let's go.
Let's do it. I always like to tell to the people why we actually have the name funky marketing, because like the definition of funk is the music that makes you want to move, activates you. And this is how I look at it. So we make the companies becoming active and meeting their customers halfway. So it's kind of like the music.
I love it. And, I love in the intro how it says, a new era is coming. And I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, it's I don't know if you have that impression, but when I was starting the company, I was talking to like 260, 70 people. Basically, I had a personal brand on LinkedIn, so I could do that. And like I found out that people are still considering B2B as like foggy, mystic, without humanity, without emotions, those kind of things. Now we are a little bit ahead of that, but still, like, we need to learn how to do things in a way of creating relationship, not being transactional.
Yeah, stop the broadcast. Stop talking at people. It's time to have conversations and bring them in and start to actually, build communities. And that's the part that excites me the most about where things are heading right now. And as you said at the beginning, I come from a sales background. I spent 2 decades in B2B sales. So I've come from that perspective and then joined in LinkedIn, set up my business. Originally, I only had my personal brand as well. But when I went to help other people on LinkedIn, every single one of them that I went to said, Michelle, can't you just build it for my business? And it just kept happening over and over and over again. And I looked around and I was like, why is nobody else talking about this? In my little part of the world here in Australia, everybody was talking, update your LinkedIn profile. It's all about personal branding, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not anti-personal branding. I'm just saying you can't ignore the business brand as well. So why don't we bring both of them together? And that's what I love.
That's something that's always been interesting, especially when it comes to LinkedIn, and especially because it's a platform that is totally different than the experience we had with like Facebook, with Twitter, with Instagram, where is I mean, I remember it was 2016, 17, I think. You remember probably that time when Facebook basically said, we're not gonna present your pages, your company pages inside our feed. So you will see them in a different feed, and marketers started to panic. Oh, what's we gonna do now? How it was like basically what I did back in the days is just create the checklist for my team, things that they can do daily to develop their personal brand, and they can be the influencers that will actually all together create the company brand. And then the LinkedIn actually started to get more and more traction. And the thing that never got to the like the priority were the pages. They were always a step behind, a step behind. There were groups at the time, but from this perspective now, I see that it was mostly like spamming people, because you could share one article in 70 LinkedIn groups with one click. And looking from this perspective, why would somebody allow that?
Absolutely. And, I get to work directly with the LinkedIn Pages team. So I do lots of testing behind the scenes. And that's one of the fun things that I get to do in my role. And one of the things that I like to share with people is, 2.5 years ago when I started working with them and having discussions around LinkedIn company pages, which have been around for a long time, but they certainly didn't get any focus from LinkedIn. They had roughly 3 or 4 people in the team at that time. That team now has roughly 30, 35 people, if I had to guess. And ultimately, I'm following the money. They have had record spends on ads over the last 3 years, thanks to COVID. Everybody brought their money onto LinkedIn. So that means that the Pages team are cashed up. And that's why we've seen so many features come through. So, where historically people would come to me and say, look, Michelle, pages don't work because if I post on a company page versus a LinkedIn profile, the LinkedIn profile, I get more reach. And absolutely you do, but that doesn't mean pages don't work. And that doesn't mean that there's lots of new features coming through to help pages grow faster. So we've seen changes come through for that. And I think we'll see different ways that you can engage with pages as well. So I think it's really exciting because we're at the beginning of that journey. Even though LinkedIn's been around for 20 years, for me, I'm excited to see where they take it, and I think groups will make a comeback as well. I'm just putting that one out there.
Yeah, I hope so, because like talking with companies, especially I've been working with a lot of tech development companies, with a huge part of their team are developers, engineers, right? And the only social media when they are, except some are on Discord, for example, it's LinkedIn. And so I need to create a hub, a community inside the company that maybe they don't like Slack that much. They need to be out there, but they don't like it that much. So like LinkedIn isn't the natural thing for them. And then like if I create a group, nobody will see the post. And the
Mm.
only solution was like to create a group inside the DMs. But then if it's enough that one person gets excited that day about something and they don't see the previous messages.
Absolutely. And I think the functionality for groups, I got to test groups that are attached to product pages. Traditionally, they were the software types of products, and that's been expanded a little. But when I spoke to the LinkedIn team, they were saying, look, we get it. We know the functionality is not there. We know people are hosting
Of
Facebook
course.
groups, Discord, all of these other places. We get it. And, I've seen the features come through that make it easier for the group admins. And from that, I think we'll start to see more, but nothing in LinkedIn happens quickly, right? So I don't hold my breath, but from what I've discussed and researched, it's definitely that collaboration community space for brands that is coming. That's a definite. It'll just be about the timing.
Yeah, I love what you said. Why we should pay attention to the company pages, basically following the money and doing reverse engineering, and going to establish ourselves, our presence in that sphere as well. Because like having a personal brand and having individuals in front of the company, it's okay, but it's just one personal aspect of the business, and we get a lot of personal ones to create the company, culture, values, brand, and all those other stuff. But it will be nice to have like you know a company that can show the emotions, why they are there, what's the culture, how is the atmosphere inside the company, how do they differentiate themselves. Because I always ask companies when I start working with them, if you can tell me right away if your brand walks through the door, how does it look like? I have this one situation with Marvin Gaye singing the national anthem for the first time in his own way, during the NBA All Star game, but people mostly have no clue. And the way LinkedIn is developing them, I see that there maybe is a chance that we'll get uh, a chance to establish the company pages and present the company in a way which is more human than looking at what other platforms are doing with the company pages.
Yeah, we're absolutely seeing that. And even some of the new features like the work commitments showing that what your brand stands for, so that when the millennials and Gen Z comes looking to see who they want to work for, those kind of things are important. So if you're a purpose-driven company that, is out looking for the environment or for people or planet, ultimately you can show that on your company page now. And we're going to start seeing that because the platform is split 50-50 roughly, baby boomers versus the Gen Z and millennials. And
Yeah,
so you will see as that, younger age group comes through, it will be driven around what's important to them. And I think that's what we're starting to see on LinkedIn right now. That's why I think half the platform is uncomfortable. The no more selfies, this isn't Facebook. That brigade is getting uncomfortable, but the other side is coming through and really changing things and bringing, for me, a new energy through. So I'm happy to adapt. And I think LinkedIn sees that that's where the future is. Why I love pages and why I think they're important, even though you don't get as much reach, it's this simple. I worked for a company and I used to sell raw materials and ingredients that go into skincare and hair care and all those kind of things that you can't pronounce on the back of your shampoo bottle. And essentially, I built up a really amazing niche community, a global one of about 5,000 industry members. It was amazing. What would happen was when I changed jobs, I took them all with me, and the companies I work for were left with nothing. And as we see the great resignation, the great reshuffle, all of these words, what are companies doing to protect themselves? What's the insurance policy for when people change? That's your company brand. And that's why I'm so passionate about telling people don't give up the personal brands, but don't forget to create your business brand as well.
I agree. That's something, we I always say we cannot actually um, keep the people inside the company, and it's natural for them to evolve, to leave, to start something on their own, or go to another position. And basically, when they leave, it's just the continuation of the relationship. They gave you what they had at this moment, what you allowed them to give you while they were working for you. Um, but one thing I see, and especially I was writing about it this morning on my Facebook page, is like, especially coming from the agency space, none of the agencies are actually doing marketing or sales for themselves. They don't, and how can somebody trust them? Looking at SaaS companies, B2B tech companies, they are basically just growing with the market. So not creating the brand, not creating the demand. And let's get into that. Let's see what they can actually do to establish themselves as as a company that people remember, know, and go to when they want to buy what they are selling.
Yeah, I've been having that conversation with digital marketing agencies here in Australia. Exactly the same thing. It's the whole get your house in order, make sure that you're leading by example so that when potential clients come, they're obviously aware that you know what you're doing and you walk the talk. Too many of these agencies, they say to me, I ask them, what would you rate yourself on LinkedIn? 0 being you don't know what you're doing, and 10 being, you want my job. And they would normally go 7 or 8. And then when I'd go and click on LinkedIn profiles, they're hardly completed. I'd look at the content, no one was creating. And ultimately, it was this big void of how are you telling your clients that you know what you're doing when there's no social proof for that? And so that's why I keep saying to them, you can't just tell people you know what to do anymore. You've got to show them. And so that's why I think, as any company that's listening in, whether an agency or otherwise, you need to start building up that proof. It's no longer just sit back and take my word for it.
Exactly. I mean, they are looking for the ways to find out those things on their own and then come to you when they are ready. To
Yeah.
recognize you as, this is my North Star. I want to work with that agency. I'm sure, like 90% of the agency didn't think like that. Like they are the North Star. For example, like we have a question. It's a great question for this moment in the conversation. Yasna asked the question, starting as a B2B founder, when do you start posting as a company page? Is there a threshold of followers as a personal brand? Because it's hard to do both when time start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to do both. And, I would always say start building your personal connections first. That is the number one place that you would say. Always set up the company page so that if anyone happens to Google your business name, they'll be directed there. And you can kind of piggyback onto the back of LinkedIn's reputation and you'll show up in the first page of results, in the top half of the page, which is amazing when you're starting out for free. Like, let's not take that away. It's pretty cool, but you are going to need personal connections to leverage invitations on your company page and all kinds of things. Now, I get that not everybody has time to be doing, the world's best strategy across LinkedIn when you're building a business. I've been through it myself. I know how many hats you have to wear. And so this is what I say to people. I say, look at your company page as the greatest hits album. And what I mean by that is back in the day, you would buy, I'm old enough, I used to buy records or CDs, and you would buy it and there'd be 18 songs and you would only like four of them. And the rest of them were just fillers. And so what I say to you is use your company page. Don't worry about any fillers. Just put the greatest hits on there. And what I mean is if you have a post that you do on your personal page that works really well, and is related to your business, take that, give it a few weeks' time, and post it on your company page. So if someone comes and visits, they're always going to see the best of the best. And so it takes away the strain of trying to create all the time. It lets you repurpose, which I'm a huge fan of repurposing for small businesses, especially. And then they get to see all of your best content, which you already know works because it's resonated with your personal audience. So take things slowly. This is a ultra marathon. It is a long distance, slow day by day build that you will take lots of small actions over time. Like me, 2.5 years later, I look back and go, wow, did I do all of that? But on a daily basis, I feel like I've got so much more to go.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, everything resonates. And I'm looking back at how we started, and it's basically, I always say to the people, don't overthink things. What you said, repurpose things, and it's even enough to have a post. For example, creating posts for your own profile, post the same thing on the company page from the start, but do the reverse order. And let's say on your personal profile, if you are, for example, a decision maker, don't post gifs, but post visuals and branded visuals on the company page. So it's a totally different post when you add the visual to it. And LinkedIn is not a platform when people remember things, so they will look at it as a completely new post. You have to certainly change some things like the hook or something when it's from your own perspective, but try to make it simple, because you don't expect your page to give you something significant right away, especially when it's like only you.
Yeah.
It's something that you are building for the future.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And for me, for instance, with some new clients, we've been using the repost feature. Now, I understand that algorithm wise, that is not necessarily spreading the message as much as I would love that feature to. But does it leave a footprint? Absolutely. Is that a signpost to direct people that you know what you're doing and what you're up to? Absolutely. So for me, it's all about small steps. It's not diving in that deep end where you get overwhelmed. My biggest fear, and the thing that I teach in any training that I do, is I don't want people to give up. Like, giving up is the only thing that you can do wrong on LinkedIn. Everything else, no matter how much time it takes, how slowly you go will always build up over time. And so for me, I was really impatient in the beginning. I hated it because I swapped from talking about beauty and chemicals and all that stuff that I'd become known for. I used to get amazing engagement. I had lots of likes and comments, and it was amazing. I set up my business to teach that industry how to use LinkedIn. And I went through a phase where it was like people were watching the wrong channel. They're like, we came here for beauty. You're talking about LinkedIn. Like, what's going on? Where's the remote? And so I went through a stage of probably around 6 months that it took me to switch off one audience, start to build another one. And 2.5 years later, it all worked out fine. But if you'd asked me in the middle of it, I was like, have I done the right thing? No one's listening. Is there anybody out there? And it was terrifying. So if you're going through a stage of building from zero, just give yourself a time frame of 6 to 12 months, because that's how long community takes. If it was an ad and you're just directing it, maybe on Google Ads or something like that, where it's a pay-per-click or some other strategy, it might happen faster. But when we're talking about building brands and building relationships, give yourself time. That is my biggest message that I can give anybody.
That's a great advice. Know what you are doing and give yourself time. There are two things actually that I want to get into, and first one is talking about the company pages. I think they're totally different things if the company has a small team of, like, let's say up to 5 or 10 people, or the company that has 30 plus people. So I wanna try to make a difference and explain these things, because, like, there I see people giving advices to different things, but when you have a huge team, LinkedIn page also gives you some other things to unlock that you don't have as a small team. So there are certain things that people can do when they are a small team. For one of them, I will mention and just start the conversation is finding a way to get your target audience to your page, so they come to your page for that. Like, one of the things that worked for us is we had a competition here in the Balkans, in the region of the best marketer. So we got all of them to come to the page and vote for themselves, for their friends, for people they know, however it is. And this is something that got us traction, also got them to to follow the page and to get back to the page on a daily level.
Look, and getting people there in the first place is your number one goal, because otherwise you're just playing content to nobodies. It's to the abyss. There's no one listening. So one of the things that I encourage small businesses, so in that 0 to 5 category, or even that bigger one that we're talking about, up to 30, is that every page admin gets 250 invite credits per month to invite people to follow the page. Now, when I first started, we didn't have things like filters, and we only had 100 invite credits. And
Yes.
people would say, don't send them out because you can't personalize the connection request or the follow request. And I would say, no one can, so you don't look bad, so don't ignore that. Now that we've got 250, that came about because of all the advocacy work I've been doing with the Pages team, saying, I can't get clients to work with me and tell them to pay me for 6 to 12 months and not see any growth. So getting page follower growth is a priority for the Pages team, which is why it went up to 250. They also give other employees get 50 credits each month. And there's other ways that we can invite people to pages. So invite credits for me has to be a part of the strategy, and using the filters to make sure that they're targeted. One of the things that I would say is build a niche community around your industry. So I take a 360-degree view. So not just ideal clients, it might be other people within the industry, like industry associations, legal bodies, suppliers. Take a full view of your industry and bring them along. The faster that you grow it, then your content resonates with more people, and it just becomes a numbers game, right? But don't ignore those invite credits, especially given that they expire at the end of every month. If you don't use them, you lose them. So you can get as, you know, creative as what you guys did. And I love that example that you've just shared. I think that's amazing, that, you know, the program that you guys came up with. But for other people starting out, if you don't have a marketing background, just jump into those invite credits.
Exactly. I mean, and it's, important thing is, as for any channel, to watch to what people are reacting, and prioritize that kind of content. For example, I'm looking at, how are links performing. You know, sometimes they are performing well when they are posted like links. So like with a thumbnail photo and everything. So it's like and you create a copy like it's a buzzword. Hey, this is one time that we are posting this, and this is the one thing that you need to click on and to read, but we are giving them just enough in the copy. So if they don't click, they get enough information. On the other hand, if we post it just as, we're not going to emphasize the links, so it's going to be like a text post with a link inside the post. No, because then you are basically doing neither of those things. And it's kind of funny. I'm talking with my team about it, looking what they're doing on the page and kind of telling them, why did you do that? Explain to me and give me the process. So we're trying that. I was talking with people and they told me like, we don't like to see links over there and those kind of things. But then I'm like, what do you want out of the post? Do you want them to click and go to the website? So follow the website. Are they actually coming? If they want them to be engaged in the likes and comments, follow that metric. So it's also about that, what you said, how many people are coming to the page, who are those people. Especially I love to follow the demographics as well, especially for us. We are from Balkans, you're from Australia. We are both probably having like potential audience, the biggest one in the US. So we need those people, but we also need people who are, in other parts of the world.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm loving with company pages that just got released and it's being rolled out now is that we've now got the bell to notify people so that they can get notified of all the company page posts. So what I mean by that is go to a company page that you're following. If it's been rolled out, you'll see a bell in the top right-hand corner underneath the banner. If you click on that, you'll always get notified. Now, I'm telling my clients and the work that I do to keep reminding people to click that button so they get notified, because we know that page posts aren't showing up in the feed. So we've got to get smarter. And ways that we get smarter are things like, for me, building a newsletter subscription. That's one of the most important things that I do on my company page, for a number of different reasons. Again, I can repurpose.
And yeah, we lost Michelle for a second, but she'll come back. Newsletters are extremely important. We're going to get into that. But first, we're going to wait for Michelle because I want to get more into the LinkedIn pages for bigger companies and the employer branding perspective. I want to get a little bit into that because this is one thing that is extremely interesting and it's growing, the interest for that. Because like so far, the biggest corporations and the biggest companies were looking at LinkedIn pages as just a place to post something. And you're back. Good. I was just explaining to the people, how for the bigger companies, like LinkedIn pages were looked at additional place to post a link for their blog or news or those kind of things. And I want to unlock a little bit how they can actually use the LinkedIn, including the employer branding thing, and basically using the people that they have inside their team. One of the things is that you mentioned, so the bell. This is something that I didn't see on the pages that I manage or here. So it's a great information that is coming.
Yeah, look, and it's already started to roll out, which is, I'm excited because as we kind of said, that you don't show in the feed as much, so how else can you get attention? And the bell, so that your brand followers can ring that and get notified of your posts, is such a great way. Now, you're going to have to go through a process to remind people to press it, let them know how to do it. Most people, even on profiles, don't know it exists. So we always, don't want to take the position of assuming that people understand LinkedIn as much as us that live on there, 24/7. So reminding your brand followers that that's a way that they can stay up to date with the content. So that is one thing that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it seems like, the priority post can be used for that. No matter if it's a screenshot or if it's a short video, however it is, but it seems like a good welcome video can do well, and just sharing the screen and giving them hints of how they can ring the bell.
Yeah, and letting them do that for employees as well. It's a double win, double the opportunity. And that's why I've always been a big advocate for pages and, the business brand and the personal brands together. Like, it's the synergy between the two that you get better results. And, that's what I've been able to do when I was just a business of one. I'm now up to a grand total of two. But for me, it's like the advantage of pages as a small business owner is that when you go to a company page, it doesn't matter whether I'm Good Trading Co. with one employee or now two, or Amazon, which has 25 million page followers and however many employees. We get the same features, the same banner size, the same tagline, the same number of posts, all for free. Now, no one looks at my post and says, how big is that business? They just assume I'm much bigger because I'm creating content. And that is the opportunity for small businesses, not worrying about how many views it gets in the beginning, but just creating that library, like I said, of proof that you know what you're talking about. And that's what people are drawn to, not necessarily how many people you have work there. So, there's lots of cool things that are coming through that I think we'll start to see all of these little things add up for pages. And I can see already when I started talking 2 years ago, if I was on a podcast like this, what would happen was people would get me on there because they thought I was crazy. Why, Michelle, are you talking about company pages? And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, you're the crazy ones. Why are you ignoring business brands? Now, fast forward 2 years, they're all like going, oh, that's what you meant. And you can see it with LinkedIn and all the research that they do into B2B, all the B2B brilliance and all of these other plays on B2B that they've got going in throughout their content. And all the B2B Research Institute, like, it's a big deal for them for the next 10 years. And yeah, of course, I'm very excited that that's the future, because I really think that it's an area of LinkedIn that's never really been exploited before.
I agree. And before I ask you things about newsletter and live streams and those kind of things, let's get a little bit about the bigger companies, because I feel they have employees. They have employees who are there on the platform, and the company page should be something that they use not only to create relationship with their potential and current customers, but also with their employees, right? Because they are all over there together, and they need, like, looking at tech development companies, like, most of them need more developers, need more engineers to come to the team, and by showing them how things work, it makes it easier.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay, $10,000, $20,000 to get the life tab, which, I've got a couple of clients that are paying a lot of money to show how great it is just to work at the company, one special tab. I said to them, why don't you save your money and just create content that shows how great it is? Have your employees share content that shows how great it is. That's better than a static tab, which shows, of course, everyone's going to write good things and good recommendations. And I don't think that that has a value. I think the value is when you can do that ongoing, genuinely show what it's like to work there so that people will come. The My Company tab is something for those bigger companies to bring everybody together so that you can see what your colleagues are up to, milestones, content. And it's just a great place to bring people together on LinkedIn. But again, if you need 10 or more employees, so if you're a small business, you don't have access. But if you're bigger than that, I think it's a great way to begin to build your employee advocacy programs. And that is getting your employees out onto the platform, giving them potentially content that they can post as their own. And it's all measured within LinkedIn. And I love the idea of, if we're trying to attract people on LinkedIn, like you said before, having that community here and then having the tools to service that community on LinkedIn. I don't want to send them to Slack or Discord or all these other places. Keep it simple so that we don't lose people. And yeah, so I think the My Company tab is an exciting one that is underutilized because nobody even knows it exists most of the time.
Yeah, and what you said is kind of interesting because actually you can choose the content that you want to your employees to share, and you can share it with them so they can reshare it further, and you can measure who from the company is actually contributing to the page and with content and with those kind of things, and I think not many companies actually know that or utilize those features.
No, and we've got to remember employees are at all different stages, just like, LinkedIn members in general. Some people are petrified of writing their own content, but might be okay if someone else writes it, they're happy to post it. And this is such a great and easy way to do that without getting penalized as a share. If we're talking about technical terms, it looks like it's theirs. It helps them to get started. And I'm a big fan of anything that takes people from just observing and watching what's going on to being an active participant, whether that's pressing like, whether that's sharing a My Company post that's being created for them. Any of those actions, taking employees, that's where the power of a business and a business brand is bringing everybody and their networks together. And so the more that you can do that, it's easier said than done. There's a lot of work that goes into getting employees to post. If only it was easy as, hey, you work for us, let's just go do it. Nothing like that is that simple, but there are tools that we can help make it simple. So My Company as well, like I said, it might be that you can see that your colleague has posted and you will support them because they're your colleague and you like them. So there's lots of untapped ways that pages can be used.
Yeah, I mean, it basically goes back to at least that's my experience working with like 7, 8 companies, establishing like 3 months program to create a hub inside the company when they give each other support. And basically, everything that goes out on LinkedIn is already something that has been giving a feedback, improved, and then it goes, and because people got excited inside the company, they will show the excitement on LinkedIn as well. But it all goes back to the leader.
Mm.
Can you lead with an example, as with more things in life? That's how things work in general.
Such an important point. If you are a CEO, C suite business owner, you have to lead by example. Otherwise, it will fall over in a couple of months and you will again get left behind, and your competitors will take your opportunities. And then it becomes a vicious cycle. They get more opportunities, they've got more revenue, they can do more things out in the industry. So there's a snowball effect from not leading by example. And nobody is too busy to do a post if it's important. So if it becomes a priority, no matter what it is in life, if it's a priority for you, you will make time, you will make money, available to make it happen. So yeah, again, CEOs, C-suite, anyone responsible at that level, you have to lead by example.
Yeah, and I would like to say one more thing. It's, if you are already planning to have a presence on LinkedIn and utilize the power of, having a big team, uh, you need to choose people based on that before they come to the company, because it's something that they will decide on their own. It's not something that, me or you as bosses will tell them and they will go and do it. Maybe they will do it for 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
then, come on, it's not my priority. I want to do something else. Why would I keep doing that? Just because my boss told me? No.
No, you got to find out what's in it for them. Like, why would they want to build their own personal brand which supports the company? What's in it for them? And if they're doing it and you're not acknowledging that work and that, above and beyond kind of attitude to make those posts happen, again, it will stop because what gets acknowledged gets continued. And so that's another important function. So lead by example and also acknowledge those within your company that are doing the right things and find out why they're doing it so you can help support them get to their personal goal.
Love that. Now tell us a little bit about those things that they are the most important and are actually driving the page. So like things like newsletter, like live stream, like some other things that you saw that work the best at the moment.
Yeah, so when you look at pages and you look at LinkedIn and where they're focused, if we go back to 2021 around this time of year, they commissioned a report called the Edelman Report, and that was looking into B2B thought leadership. And essentially, that long report condensed down said that the B2B buyer is looking for original thought leadership. And so LinkedIn went away and they said, okay, how do we address this? Now, thought leadership normally is in a long form state. So post the one thing that you can begin to build it up, but a long form article, for instance. So articles on company pages aren't that old. That's happened in around the last 18 months, 2 years maybe. But essentially they're not that old. That then turned into newsletters. And so there's a couple of things you should note. Newsletters and articles, for all intents and purposes, look and feel the same. They both show up on Google, but one you build subscribers for, which means when you create a newsletter, those subscribers get notified on LinkedIn or an email sent to their inbox off LinkedIn, which I think is just really powerful. At the same time, it's indexed by Google, so you have more opportunities to show up. LinkedIn are pushing that. We're starting to see things like new analytics that go with that. I think we'll start to see things, how much did people read, how much was opened, all those kind of stats that we love to, justify our existence. And essentially, again, it's because brands have been told by the B2B buyer in the research that we want original thought leadership. And so instead of just going, it frustrates me so much. You go to Google, you type in a question because you want to buy something, and it doesn't matter whose website you go to, they all say exactly the same thing because they've been written for SEO, they've been written for algorithms, they haven't been written for buyers. And so that's one opportunity. The second part to that is also LinkedIn Lives. And so my focus on my company page is LinkedIn Lives and LinkedIn newsletters. Again, long form content that you can build community with. I personally love LinkedIn Lives because the one advantage of company pages over your profile is the video tab. And most people don't realize that on a company page, you can almost end up with your own YouTube channel, equivalent. And so for me, I can build up a back catalog of all the amazing interviews for me personally that I've done. All of my video content sits there, and I can have ongoing long-term conversations where I can drive people back to that content. And again, it comes back to what we said earlier. You don't want to create a community on LinkedIn and have to send them off to other platforms to consume other things. So the more I can keep them on LinkedIn, the better for me. I do have, other channels available, but the easiest.
hmm The easiest way is, to get them over there when they're already spending their time. We lost Michelle again for a second, but we'll get back. One thing that I got out of it is you have means to communicate with your target group, with your audience, right there when they spend their time. So you don't need to take them away off the platform, but at the same time, for example, newsletter. Um, is the thing that allows you to communicate with them inside their inboxes. So also communicate in the feed, but also you get to talk to them in the email. I was just explaining that basically what you wanted to say. So you have a chance, you have tools to communicate with your customers in the feed when they spend their time, and on the other hand. One of them also gives you the chance to get them inside their other channels. So the most intimate one, which is considered email inbox, is considered as the most intimate one. So those are kind of the things that gets the attention from the pages. It happens, worry not. So basically, I just explained a little bit. Then you have the tools to get the people inside the feed when they're already spending their time, and one of them, for example, the newsletter, is actually giving you a chance to at the same time communicate with the people in the most intimate uh, place when they are. It's their email inbox, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How cool is that that you have that opportunity? And I love the way newsletters look. You can embed videos, you can use graphics, you can have links, you can tag people now, you can use hashtags. Like, I think that they're a cool way to present information. And again, for me, it's a huge repurposing thing. So if I'm on, LinkedIn Lives or podcasts like this, they go into my newsletter.
Yeah, you use the newsletter to repurpose things and get people back to the things that you share during the week, that you created with other people, and basically, just kind of a resume of what was happening the week before, or 2 weeks before, or a month before, depending how frequently you publish the newsletter. So those are kind of the things that we get back to. Michelle is having some problems with her internet. It happens. We are live
I'm
streaming.
back again.
Yeah, yeah, all good. I'm finishing your sentences. So
That's good. Lucky we're so aligned. Like, I think we could finish each other's sentences because you and I share so many similar views and strategies. It's scary to think that we've never had a conversation, but we've worked out very similar things.
Exactly. One thing I want to add. You mentioned repurposing inside the newsletters, and basically, I explained that you can have it like once a week, once in 2 weeks, or once in a month, and basically you resume what was happening in the week before. Also, one of the things that you can do is you can repurpose smaller videos outside of the podcast, like this one. This is what we've been doing, and actually, we didn't do it when it was going out. We did it like 6 months after,
Mhm.
and got totally new conversations, new way of promoting things, and including people who were guests, and they were sharing it. So because we tag them, we involve them in the content, we got their audience as well coming to our page, and also checking out things. So one more thing that we can use. Thanks for the inspiration for the videos, kind of YouTube channel. I think today that's going to be my post. So
Look, it's a thing that works differently to the profile. And, one of the things that I assessed what I was doing at the end of last year was I looked at it and I went, so much of my content is disappearing down the feed, never to be seen again. So, what can I create that has a longer shelf life, that I can keep the conversation going long after that initial post? And that's why newsletters, you've now got a lot more focus on when you visit a company page, it sits right there front and center, and the video tab is there. And linked to that, obviously, the events tab is really important to part of my strategy. On a normal occasion, I have all of my upcoming events probably out around 6 weeks or so. I don't have it right now because I'm just finishing writing the book, but I ultimately have 6 weeks of upcoming events, and all of my past events show on that events tab. And again, they're searchable. People can go back and watch, continuing that conversation, because I have some amazing conversations with people on my LinkedIn lives. And I don't want that to go to waste, and just disappear down the feed, gone in 48 hours.
that's very smart one. When we did those things, like, you cannot get people, if you do, for example, a webinar that is outside of LinkedIn, and you still create a LinkedIn event, they don't click to register on the other platform. They all register on LinkedIn. But what we were doing, I had a person dedicated that was, going to the people and in LinkedIn inboxes and asking them, "Thank you for registering to this. We know that you haven't been to the live stream, maybe because misalignment between the tools, but do you want to receive the recordings?" So they answer yes or no, or they never answer. But if they answer yes, we give them the recordings and we start a relationship and conversation with them. So a great way to bring something which is, during the stream to the inboxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. It's really clunky if you create the LinkedIn event and try and take someone off to Zoom or wherever else they have to register. And it's probably one of the number one complaints or questions that I get from people is I created a Zoom registered event. I created a LinkedIn event. Why are people just clicking attend and then not clicking on my link to register? And unless you've got that process you just described, where you're following up people and saying, hey, did you know you've got to do this second step? And then they go, oh, that's all a bit hard. I don't want to go and register because then you're going to bombard me and try and email me and catch me with stuff. So LinkedIn is a trusted platform. So that's number one, why the more you can spend time on LinkedIn, people are more comfortable with that. And it's you get them while they're scrolling. LinkedIn will help you promote the events if they're held on there. So they send out, notifications 7 days, 3 days, and just before. So you're getting help. Is there a way to go? It would be great if like live streaming to LinkedIn like this was a bit more steady and you didn't drop out all the time. That would be cool. But for the most part, I think events, and you can have registered LinkedIn lives just as much, are an opportunity. Again, people say, Michelle, why would I do a live on my page versus a live on my profile? So I'll use me as an example. I've got 10,000, roughly a bit over that, personal followers. For ease, I'll say I've got 2,000 page followers, so 5 times more. Why do it on my page instead of my profile? For exactly what I said before. Sits on that video tab. It's easily found. I can go back and direct people there. On my profile, I've got limited places I could put it, maybe in the featured section, but ultimately that's just going to disappear down and never be seen again. You can get around that on your page by using your invites that we get every week. So you've got like 1,000 invites. That's more than enough. Everyone in your team has that, so you can get even more. And ultimately, if you plan them out in advance, you can have a good turnout. And, for me, it's just been the number one way that I get engagement. And you can see the stats coming out of LinkedIn. They actually say video gets way more engagement, and we're seeing that on pages. And it's not video, it's lives, because they're a great way to build community.
Sounds good. So for the end, I don't want to take much longer of your time. Um, tell people a little bit about your book, about where they can find more information about you. Guys, when you now is the moment to stop. Go back to the beginning of the episode. Listen. We first gave you, kind of the big picture why you need to do that. Then we got into the different types of companies, and we ended up with tactics and strategies that you can use. And now, Michelle, tell them when they can, when they got stuck or they hear something interesting, when they can go for the answer.
Yeah, look, I would love if you hear any news around company pages to reach out and let me know. So I'm a specialist that focuses on company pages and LinkedIn for business. So my company page is called Good Trading Co, and my personal connections on LinkedIn are under Michelle J Raymond, and that's because there's thousands of Michelle Raymonds. So I've made it a little bit easier. But I'm the co-author of the world's only book on company pages called Business Gold, which came out November last year, and just about to launch the LinkedIn branding book with a friend of mine, Michelle Griffin, which is how do you get the most out of LinkedIn when you're building a personal and business brand together. So excited to have that one coming out in around a month. It's getting close, but that's the way that I help people to look back. If you're just starting out like I was, just 3 years ago, what are the lessons that I've learned? What do I wish I knew back in the beginning that would have saved me time or money having to redo things? And so I'm really proud of the book that we've put out, and yeah, keep an eye out for it.
Sounds awesome. Michelle is also awesome. Follow her as well. If you're listening to this, we'll put the links in the description. I don't know if the episode is going to be published in a month, but if it's, uh, if the book is already here, you will have a link to go and check it out in the description. I recommend you do that. And one thing that I always say for the end is, we always have this, back and forths in the episode. So you go back, listen to each segment of the show, uh, follow Michelle. Click the link in the description if you are listening to this on the podcast. Probably the book will already be there. So go ahead, get it, read it, get back to Michelle with the feedback. And yeah, guys, Michelle, thank you for spending time with me, sharing those gems. Guys, for you, as always, keep it funky and try to look at the things from a little bit different perspective. In most cases, from the customer's perspective, related to your own perspectives, to create a unique overview of your business. Bye bye.